Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. Today we are going to discuss another important topic that has been in use from past few days regarding a term that has been used in parlance of international relations, that is New Quad. A New Quad is a term that has been used with regard to grouping of four countries: India, USA, Israel and United Arab Emirates. So we are going to discuss today that what are the opportunities which India has and what are the challenges which India can face when developing the relationship of New Quad with these four countries. So first, before understanding about New Quad, we need to understand a slight background that how this New Quad has been shaped. So the first important event that has happened last year was signing of an agreement that is named as Abraham Accords between State of Israel, United Arab Emirates, United States of America on 13th of August 2020 under the presidency of Donald Trump in the White House. Later on, countries like Bahrain and Sudan have also joined this accord. So basically this accord is a kind of attempt that has been made for the first time after Jordan to normalize relationship between an Arab country and Israel. And the name Abraham has been selected because it emphasized the shared origin of belief between Judaism and Islam, as both these religions as well as Christianity also trace their origin or trace their root from a common ancestor, or we can say common prophet, that was Abraham. So it shows a sense of solidarity, or it portrays a sense of common identity between all the three important religions of Judaism, Islam and Christianity. So signing of this Abraham Accord has actually changed the relationship between the Arab nations and Israel. So if we try to understand that what has been the major impact of signing of this accord on the relationship between various countries. So first of all, if we look at the relation between UAE and Israel, so in terms of economic relation, there has been changes, and now we have increase in the volume of diamond trade that is going on between UAE and Israel. There has also been increased collaboration in the high-tech industries such as artificial intelligence as well as defense. Not only that, they are also having a wider range of economic cooperation where both countries are establishing formal ties in terms of business relationship or investment relationship. And to increase such kind of interaction, Abu Dhabi Investment Office has opened its first overseas branch in Israel. At the same time, to increase B2B cooperation or business to business cooperation between the two countries, UAE-Israel Business Council has also been set up. Apart from this, one other major impact we can see in the future is on the environment, because it has been come to fore that Israel and UAE has secretly signed a oil deal, and due to signing of this oil deal, now Israel will facilitate the movement of UAE's crude oil vessels to pass through the port of Eilat that is in control of Israel. And due to this, Eilat port can turn into a major transportation hub, especially for oil exports and import, as UAE and other Arabian countries are the exporter countries, while the European countries are mainly the importer countries. And between them, if they have to, if trading has to happen, then the Eilat can serve as a major port. For example, this is the Gulf of Aqaba, and here is the location of Eilat. But at the same time, on the flip side, the adverse impact of this can be seen on the coral reefs that are present in the Red Sea region where Eilat is located. So this is Eilat if you look at the map, and this is the Red Sea area. But around this Red Sea region, we have very high concentration of coral reefs. Coral reefs are a very diverse marine ecosystem that supports more than 90% of marine, marine life. And that is why a possible threat to coral reef can have adverse effect on the whole marine chain in this region. And that is why in the future we can have ecological disasters waiting to happen if this Eilat, if some disasters like oil spills or collision between tankers, or we can say fire hazard, if some kind of that such kind of incidents happen due to oil transportation, then ecological disaster can happen in the future. Apart from that, the other impact of accord we can see in various dimensions. For example, in cultural exchange, where the delegations from both UAE as well as Israel have visited each other's countries and have made an attempt to increase the cultural ties or cultural interaction between both the communities as well as countries. Apart from that, for the first time in UAE, a virtual hackathon event related to computer was held, and Israel was allowed to participate for the first time in this event. On the other, in this year, when the International Holocaust Memorial Day was held, the International Holocaust Memorial Day is held every year on 27th of January to commemorate, or we can say, in the memory of all the victims of Nazi war crimes, especially all the Jewish people who were killed by Hitler when he was in charge of Germany, when he was ruling Germany during World War II. So, for the first time, the UAE as well as Bahrain has also participated in this Memorial Day. Apart from that, in the terms of sports or in the front of a sport, for the first time, a rugby match was held between the teams of UAE and Israel. And also, to increase a wide range cooperation or a cooperation on a multilateral level, Israel has sent embassies in UAE as well as Bahrain. And at the same time, if you look at on the tourism front, for the first time, such a huge number of tourists, almost 130,000 Israeli tourists have visited the UAE since the signing of this accord. So, all this development it tells us that there is a increase in the effort by both Arabian countries as well as Israel to normalize the relationship, so that it is not hampered just by a Palestinian cause. The main reason why we can say there has been conflict between Arab states and Israel is due to the conflict of Palestine, because Israel does not recognize Palestine, and the Arabian countries, because of their Islamic commonality, they want to give right to the Palestinians to reside in those areas. But now there has been change in, we can say, this thinking, where the Arabian countries do not want their relations with Israel to just be decided by the fate of Palestinians. Now, coming to another term that has been used from past few months is that Indo-Abrahamic Accord. Abrahamic Accord, we already discussed that what is Abraham or Abrahamic Accord. Now there has been an addition of a term that is called as Indo by an Egyptian scholar for the first time, whose name is Muhammad Soliman. So Muhammad Soliman understands or believes that India can play a very important or influencing role in the region of West Asia now, as the relationship between Arab and Israel is normalizing. And he believes this because he believes, or he has observed, there has been a significant transformation of India's relationship with both the countries of UAE as well as Israel. And as per him, he believes that the relationship between all the three countries have acquired a kind of political depth and are not only simple relation, but it has a strategic dimension to it also. If we try to understand the relationship between India and UAE, then if we try to look at the evolution of relationship, especially in economic terms, then in 1970s, the bilateral trade used to be of somewhere value of $160 to $70 million, while at the same time now, in this year, the value has reached to $59 billion. So that's a significant increase. Apart from that, also UAE is the second largest trading partner of India after USA. At the same time, if you look at the relationship between India and Israel, Israel is the second largest exporter of military equipments to India after Russia, and this is estimated to be somewhere at $9 billion. Apart from that, there has also been increased in cooperation between India and Israel on several fronts, whether it is a dry agriculture, dry land agriculture, or it is water harvesting, or whether it is different dimensions of agriculture. And apart from that, in the sharing of technologies, especially related to computer sciences and artificial intelligence. So, all these have led Muhammad Soliman to believe that a trilateral relationship between India, UAE as well as Israel can serve as a potential nucleus of a wider regional coalition. Before, it was difficult to develop a regional coalition where India, Arabian states and Israel can come on the same table, but now as the normalization of relations happened between India and Israel and UAE, now India can have or help in development of a wider regional cooperation, and even involving other states, other Arabian states like Egypt, Sudan, Bahrain, Kuwait and all these countries. But before understanding how relationship or how the policies of India can undergo change due to this Abraham Accord, let us try to understand that what has been the traditional West Asian policy of India before. So, the traditional West Asia policy of India has been revolving around three major dimensions. First is the Sunni Gulf monarchies, where countries like Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait are included. Second, it was revolving around Israel, which is a Jewish state. And third is Iran, which is a Shia dominated or Shia ruled states. So now, if we try to understand that what could be the possible changes in the perspective of India's foreign policy in this area. So many experts believe that now, due to normalization of relationship or due to signing of Abraham Accord, now India's policy in the Western Asia can change from bilateralism to regionalism. What it means is that before India was focused on each country separately and tried to develop relationship with each countries without taking into account or without affecting the other country's interest. But now, due to normalization of relationship between these powers, India can focus more on regionalism, and there is actually a large scale potential for development of relationship in the dimension of trade, in dimension of increasing energy tide. Apart from that, the countries can also collaborate on the subject matter of climate change, which is one of the most potential threat to the humanity in the coming future. And apart from that also, we can have increased cooperation in the maritime security, because Indian Navy is a regional power in Indian Ocean, and now they can help other countries also in the Red Sea as well as Mediterranean Sea region. Now, if we try to understand that what could be the or what has been in the drivers of change of India's foreign policy toward West Asia. So first we can say is the moderate policy of Biden and Bennett. Joe Biden, who is the President of United States of America, and Bennett, who is the President of Israel, they both have adopted a moderate stance as far as the question of Palestine is concerned. And that is why India before had this dilemma that they cannot support fully Israel and they cannot support fully Palestine. So India had to adopt a balanced approach, keeping in mind the interest of both Palestine as well as Israel. But now, since Biden and Bennett has adopted a moderate policies toward Palestine, India will have a, we can say, much easier approach. India will have a much easier navigation, we can say, in the term of international relations, that the interest between these countries and these conflicting partners can be balanced. At the same time, the other drivers of change is development of a Turkey-Pakistan axis and alienation of Pakistan. So, we try to understand this point. The Turkey-Pakistan axis is it is actually the inclination of Pakistan or deepening of partnership between Turkey and Pakistan, we can say, that has been going on from past few years, and now Pakistan is being alienated from its traditional Gulf partners like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Qatar. So that is why the Turkey is also these days, we can say, are supporting Pakistan on every issues, including the issue of Kashmir, where Turkey has says that the Turkey has adopted this stance in United Nations, where where they support Pakistan and say that a plebiscite should be held in Kashmir to decide upon the issue that whether Kashmir should be a part of India or should be a part of Pakistan. And this is due to this reason that Turkey is also supporting Pakistan and has we can say scuttled the effort of India to enter into nuclear suppliers group. Apart from that, there has been significant changes that is happening in the Eastern Mediterranean regions. So this is the Eastern Mediterranean region where we have countries like Turkey, Cyprus, Greece and all these Arabian countries, African countries are involved. So first of all, recently a large swath of oil gas has been discovered in Eastern Mediterranean that also has increased the political consideration, or we can say increased the geopolitical conflict in this region, or has potential to increase the geopolitical conflict in this region in the coming time. And also it will increase the interest of many regional countries to increase their stake or increase their participation in Eastern Mediterranean regions. Apart from that also, we can see the Cyprus, Greece, all these countries are having conflicting kind of relationship with Turkey, and that is why they want to have a better partnership with India, so that in future they can have a better collaborative approach to tackle the problem that they can face from Turkey side. Apart from that also, United States, now they are more focused toward Indo-Pacific because they want to decrease or we can say due to the assertive role of China in the Indian Ocean. Now USA is shifting more or want to increase their presence more in the Pacific region. At the same time, they want to downsize their expansive role in the Middle East. So that will also increase the chances of India to partner with other countries. But at the same time, India has to take into consideration the fact that it did not get itself drawn into the regional quagmire. Apart from that, if you look at that, what could be the potential areas of cooperation within this new Quad grouping, or we can say Middle East Quad grouping. So mostly it is believed that India's focus will lying on the non-military issues, and in this we have large scale cooperation can be achieved in the areas of defense. As we already have discussed, the defense partnership between India and Israel is very strong in areas of aerospace, in areas of digital innovation, where the countries can pool their resources and coordinate development policies. If you try to understand how this can be achieved, so simply we understand that India has a potential to, it has a very large human resources, it has a very large population, so it provides a large scale market, and Israel can provide innovation, while at the same time UAE has surplus capital, so Emirati capital can also be included. So combining India's scale with Israeli innovation and Emirati capital could produce immense benefit to all the three countries, and not only three countries but also to an overall region. And if you include the American strategic support, then obviously the whole dynamics of the Western Asian region or the Middle East region can go significant change. The other area of cooperation can be in the field of semiconductor design and fabrication, where Israel has expertise and India, due to its Make in India policy, and semiconductor can be used in a lot of different equipments, whether it is mobile or other hardware manufacturing, can benefit a great deal from it. But at the same time, we have to remember that there are several challenges that India will have to face while dealing with the relationship between all the different countries. So let us look at the few challenges. So first, India's Middle East policy has been seen in the religious term, or can be seen in the religious term in the past, where Pakistan, especially if you look at in Pakistan, there is a large scale belief of Hindu-Yahudi conspiracy that refers to relationship between India and Israel, and is believed that by Hindu-Yahudi conspiracy that they are trying to we can say remove Pakistan from the map of India. That is the major belief in the Pakistani community. Apart from that, we have deepening of Indian-Israeli ties with the moderate Arab states. So that will obviously cause a problem in the belief system of those people who were basing their agenda on the Hindu-Yahudi conspiracy. Apart from that, we also have contradiction between Israel and Arab. That contradiction between Israel and Arab is already existing there and has already existed. So we cannot say this contradiction will be completely removed. So that is also something that India has to keep into mind while navigating its way to the Western Asian policies. Apart from that, the most important is the angle of Iran. Iran is not only has very strong historical ties with India and cultural ties with India, but also it is a very strategic or significant partner of India in the terms of trade. And as we have seen before, that India's policy has been hinged before between three partners or between three pillars. One was the Sunni states, that is Arab state, second was Israel, and third was the Shia state, that is Iran. So now this collaboration, or we can say normalization of relationship has been occurred between Arab and Israel, but still Iran is conflicted. Iran has a very strong conflict between both Arab nations as well as the Israel, but India is very good partner of Iran. So that is something that India has to take into mind, that how it will navigate or how it will take a decision that will not hamper the interest of Iran, because Iran's importance is also rising in term for India. The reason behind this is because there is an increase in conflicts in West Asia, and especially if you look at the changes in the case of Afghanistan. So what is happening is that Afghanistan is currently now controlled by Taliban, and here Iran can play a very important and significant important role as far as the security interest of India is concerned. Also, Iran has a very large border with the Pakistan, so there also we need a cooperation of Iran. Then apart from that, the other major challenge or problem that lies in the context of India is, if you look at the Middle Eastern Quad, then if India becomes a very strong participant in the Middle Eastern Quad, then it can be seen as such a South Asian power who is more closer to the United States. As United States is one of the most important country, that is we can say who is the whole promoter of this Middle Eastern Quad. So that is why it can be seen going closer to Washington, and that if you look at from the both Russia and China side, they can look it as a kind of hostile actions by India, and thus India can have withering of relationship, or India can have this decline in the relationship between both China as well as Russia. So that is something also India has to take care of. Now we try to conclude that what should be our aim. So first of all, as far as the term new Quad or Middle Eastern Quad is concerned, many experts believe that it is perhaps too early to call the new multilateral with the US, UAE and Israel the new Quad for the Middle East, and it will take some time before this grouping can find its feet and evolve. As this is a very new grouping, and the relationship between all these countries are still in a kind of flux or a state of flux, so it will take some time before we can understand fully the dynamics that is going to change. And as Indo-Pacific has transformed the way India thinks about the East, however, we can also say the notion of a greater Middle East that we are discussing right now in the context of Abrahamic Accords, in the context of Indo-Abrahamic Accord, and in the context of, we can say, a new Quad, it definitely can provide a huge fillip to India's engagement with the extended neighborhood to the West. So, finally, what we can say is that definitely the Indian policy toward West Asia should and is going to change with the development of new relationship between Arabian states as well as Israel. So, that's all for today. Thank you very much. If you like the session, please like, share and subscribe.